Hi guys, it's Alana Lowe's here, Muval's moving guru. Now it's pouring with rain outside, can't you see? Can you hear that? No, actually, it's not really. But what happens if it's raining on your moving day? Well, I have some great handy hints and tips on how you can make sure your precious items stay safe and dry, and you stay safe and the removalist stays safe on your moving day. So hang about, they're about to come up very shortly. Okay, first and foremost, it's always safety first. If it's truly raining cats and dogs on your moving day, well then you really have to think about rescheduling. It's just not safe to do so. But most likely, if it's just a little bit of rain, then you're going to be pushing ahead with your moving day. And yes, removalists still work on a rainy moving day. Follow the weather reports as soon as you know when you're going to be booking in your moving day. And the closer you get to that moving day, the more accurate those weather reports are going to become. A couple of apps that I love to use to follow the weather is you have Willy Weather that you can download onto your phone, as well as Oz Radar Lite. Or go to the BOM, that will give you some really great up-to-date weather forecasts as well. Keep that in mind and always plan for the fact that you might have some rain on your moving day. Appropriate footwear is an absolute must when it's raining. Definitely not like what I'm wearing at the moment. So thongs aren't going to cut it. You need something that's going to be nice and grippy, something that's not going to get too sodden with the water. So you know, some leather boots or some boots that you might be able to interchange with a couple of pairs, or gum boots, as long as they aren't going to get in the way and they're not going to be hazardous. Make sure that you also have some, warm weather gear, because if you're going to be wet for a long time through the period of the day, you want to make sure that you've got some changes of clothes or something that's going to keep you warm. Raincoats, ponchos are also a great idea as long as they don't get in the way. You don't want to make anything more hazardous because the wet weather and the rain is already going to be doing that. Make sure you really take care of taping boxes extra to make sure they're extra sturdy, and particularly in the vulnerable parts like the corners and the bases, where if they do happen to get a little bit damp, you don't want them giving way with all your precious items in there. Even think about having some extra towels on hand to make sure that you can wipe things over before you start to lift them. So for instance, if you're wanting to lift a dining room table or a lounge suite, making sure that they're not going to be slippery when you're trying to lift anything like that. I'd also keep some garbage bags handy for any of those small boxes, because they are a great way that with any small box that you don't want to get damaged or wet, you can just wrap them up into a garbage bag and they'll be completely protected. Use umbrellas as well to help keep things nice and dry. So we talked about how we can protect some of our boxes and some of the other items when it comes to a rainy day, but there's some really precious stuff that you just are so susceptible to moisture that you just absolutely don't even want to get a drop of rain. So things like artwork. So if you've gone to the trouble of actually packing up your artwork in proper artwork boxes, have a think about whether you should maybe wrap that in plastic or even in some blankets and other tarps and tie them up and to really protect them from the rain. Because a beautiful piece of artwork that maybe you've bought overseas or you've had commissioned, the last thing you want is to be damaged in one move from one place to the other because of some rain. So take the precautions before you start moving things, and that way when you get to the other end, everything's going to be nice and safe and dry. The same goes for all your electrical items, so things like your TVs, computers, any of your electrical equipment from your kitchen. You need to make sure that they are covered with plastic and tarps, blankets, just to really keep moisture away from those electrical components, because that's where the damage will get done. The biggest issue you're probably going to face on raining day is trying to move a mattress. They're big, they're bulky, they're hard to move even on a good day. So really think about whether you can get some really large tarps. Places like Bunnings or your local hardware store will have oversized, big size tarps that you can probably go and buy, or wrapped in blankets should be good enough if it's not absolutely pouring with rain. Now you've most likely already had all your different utilities and electricity connected. Just a quick reminder, Muval can do all of that for you as well. So I would keep on hand things like portable fans, heaters, hair dryers, any of those kind of things. Have them available to you at the other end for when things get wet. So, I mean, there's nothing like the stench of damp towels to really put a, let's say, dampener on a new house experience. So the quicker you can get things dry, the better you're going to be. You're going to reduce any risk of mold developing or just that, you know, stinky, damp smell happening as well. So now it's all about the logistics of a wet weather move. Packing and ensuring that all your items are protected is one thing, but what about other things like, you know, keeping the mud out of the houses? You know, the footpaths, the driveways, they're all going to be muddy and wet from this rain that you're having on your moving day. Line the hallways and the entryways with, you know, mats, tarps, blankets, anything you can just to keep the wet out, because it's really going to be hard for people to take shoes on and off constantly, particularly if they're carrying heavy items. So you're going to have to expect they're coming inside with wet and damp shoes. So really protect that first part with some tarps and blankets. An assembly line is a great way to try and keep things, the muddy boots and everything out of your new house or from the old house as well. So if you have enough people and also the removalists are agreeable with having some extra hands to help, create an assembly line. This way you'll be able to get items from the truck without it traipsing all the way through the dirt and the mud and everything and into the house. So the people going in and out of the house are going to be people that haven't been with their feet and their boots in the mud. Try and have all your items sorted into the garage or into a large room at the front of the house, and prioritise those items that absolutely must stay dry, that it's imperative that they don't get a little bit of water on them at all, because you can always try and get those loaded on quickly, or if the weather happens to break, you'll know that these are the items that you've got to start moving now before it starts to rain again. So have a bit of an idea of the contents of what you need to move and when you need to move it. Can you provide some extra shelter? Can you set up a marquee or a gazebo or a tent just outside the truck? That way you can also move items and start placing them there so that the removalists can then get the items into the truck without them getting too damp or just sitting there waiting, because you're probably going to be moving stuff well before it's all going to be getting up and into the truck and sorted into the truck. So it's just a great way to continue to protect your items is by using tents and gazebos. Okay, the big thing and something that you're just going to have to deal with on a day when it's raining, so don't get too stressed about it, is the fact that everything is most likely going to go slower. The packing's going to be slower. The moving from the house to the truck, then from the truck to the other house is going to be slower because of the rain. The traffic on the road is going to be slower. Everything will most likely be slower that day, so just be prepared that it will take longer than you first anticipated. Now, we've spoken about how on a rainy, moving day that it can slow things down a bit, but here are some tips on how you can actually help speed things up. So the first one is making sure that you're all organised and sorted. Have your items ready to go so that the removalists aren't waiting around for you to still continue to pack. Have them ready for them so they can get them straight into the truck and straight to your place as soon as safely as possible. I have a clear plan for how you're going to execute your wet weather move and make it as easy as possible for your removalists to load and unload all your items.